Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great Wednesday. My name is Christian Garcia, and I'm the Associate Dean and Executive Director of the Topple Career Center. Welcome to the final event of our Summer Skill Up Alumni Webinar Series. The Topple Career Center and Development and Alumni Relations were thrilled to partner this summer to provide alumni inspiration, motivation, and tangible advice from alumni experts in various fields of work. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So the first part of our session, I want to talk a little bit about logistics. The first part, we will cover topics that we prepared, and the second part will focus on your questions. We want you to know that you can use the chat feature below to chat with your fellow Canes joining us today. If you want to catch up, just say a quick hi. And you can use the Q&A feature to type in any questions that you may have for the panelists throughout today's presentation. So as we get started, we would like to take a quick little poll. So this is the audience participation portion. So you will see a poll pop up in just a few seconds. So we would like to know when you graduated from the university, 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, or 10 plus years. I'll give everybody a few seconds. Okay, looks like we're almost there. So it looks like it's a tie. It's pretty much a tie for 0 to 5 and 10 plus years. So regardless of what year you graduated, welcome. We're really excited to have you with us today. So with that, let's see, sorry. Okay. So I'm excited to introduce today's session, Lessons Learned from the Great Recession. Our moderator and panelists are successful alums working in a variety of industries, and they each will share their stories of how they navigated the job search, how they took risks, and stayed motivated during a very challenging time. Sola Bamis will serve as our moderator. Sola is an actress, writer, performance artist, and filmmaker committed to high-quality art making across media platforms. She also serves as the founder of Still Brave Productions, an entertainment production cooperative that specializes in the development, production, and curation of culturally aligning projects for a global audience. Sola received her BA in chemistry, that's right, chemistry, from the University of Miami, an MFA in acting from the California Institute of the Arts. An interesting fact, she earned a SAG Award nomination for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a drama series for her work as Shirley on the final season of Mad Men. I'm sure many of you have seen that show. Sola's filmmaking debut, The Event, shot in Nigeria, was an official selection of the 2018 Black Star and San Francisco Black Film Festivals, and the script for her next project, Crocodile, placed as finalist and semifinalist in the 2018 Film Daily Screenwriting and Atlanta Film Festival screenplay competitions. She produced and organized the Still Brave Short Film Showcase at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, as an opportunity for Black women to present their short film projects and discuss their work, processes, and identities as Black women filmmakers. Right now, she's somewhere in Los Angeles working on the tutorial, developing projects for Still Brave, and reminding folks that yes, Black lives do still matter. Sola will take it from here and introduce you to our panelists. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here. As he said, my name is Sola Bamis. I graduated from the U in 2007, and I'm very, very grateful to be joining you all today with this presentation with the Topple Career Center. Our panelists today will be Paige Ford, Scott Kerr, and Alicia Savage. Now I want to start off with some introductions going around with you three, Scott, Paige, and Alicia. We can start off with whoever wants to start. Let us know where you currently are, the company you work, your role, as well as what you studied at the U, a favorite memory of the U, and a memory you all have of the Great Recession. So anyone can go first.
I can start. Hello, oh, go ahead, Scott.
Oh, Paige, go for it. You and Alicia before me. I'll go last.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paige Ford, class of 2011. And I currently work at Netflix here in San Francisco. I am a search engine optimization and content strategy manager. Very long word. In short, it means I work in digital marketing here. In terms of like, what I studied at University of Miami was international finance and marketing. My favorite memory probably would be the beautiful campus, walking in between classes to the dorms. I had the privilege of being able to live on campus at the time. And in regards to the big recession, so around 2008, I graduated towards the intel of that, but I do vividly remember how difficult it was to find a job. It was really hard, especially for a lot of folks, a lot of my friends, and just the fear that I know that a lot of people are feeling right now as we deal with this pandemic. So I really hope this is valuable for you, that we're able to give you some advice, share some of our stories, and thank you for having me.
Hi everyone, Alicia Savage. I am a 2009 alum of the University of Miami. Let's see, where am I now? I am currently at the University of South Florida, so I am right up the road. If you want to drive up Alligator Alley a little bit, hit 75, I'm just 4 hours away. I am currently helping students figure out what to do with their lives professionally. I work as an assistant director of career planning at USF. So this is exciting for me. Hopefully this will be beneficial for everyone involved, echoing what Paige said. My favorite memory of the U is probably sitting on the rock with friends in front of the UC, skipping class sometimes, just the camaraderie of it all. We all share that thing that you can't really qualify of the U, so it was good sharing that time together. And as far as the Great Recession goes, I graduated in 2009, so around the same time as Paige was figuring out things, so was I. And I just remember learning at that point that a lot of my peers were figuring out how to be a jack of all trades. They were picking up some hobbies, some part-time jobs, some gigs, and figuring out some talents that they didn't know they had. And some of them still use it today, so it's inspiring. So glad to be here today.
Nice. So, excuse me. I'm Scott Kerr. I graduated with a psych degree in '92. So I'm the young guy on this panel today. I'm the managing director of business development at a global brand storytelling agency called Invent. So I'll have to admit, being interviewed and talked to here by someone that was on Mad Men is kind of cool. So that being said, you'll see my background. I go way back. One of my favorite memories was I was actually the DJ at the Orange Bowl during all the games. Well, not all the games when they won 58 straight, but I was up in the press box, and this is how bad it was. I had a box of cassette tapes. That's what I DJ'd with. No, it wasn't a computer or anything. So imagine trying to be a DJ with cassette tapes. I'm on the headsets with the legendary Connie Nickel, who honestly should have been the first female athletic director here at the U, in one ear, and the marketing great Neil Bendesky in the other, and they're yelling at me on what music to play, what promotions are supposed to go on, and J-Ro was our announcer, public address announcer forever. It's crazy. It's hectic. It was so much fun in the Orange Bowl. I sadly feel it'll never be that exciting as long as we're playing in Joe Robbie or Hard Rock, whatever they call it these days, until we find a way to build a stadium on campus. So that's my PSA. My favorite memory, we don't have memories that are favorites of the recession. When we talk today, I'm going to talk about 01, 08, and now, because this is getting darn near 08. My wife and I had to celebrate on lockdown here our 10th anniversary and my 50th birthday. We were supposed to be in Namibia on safari, and we were on the same couch under the tiki hut, and that wasn't the same. So that's kind of our memories from this recession. And I look forward to talking about some things that might be able to help you guys when we move forward. So I appreciate the introduction.
Thank you all so much for your introductions, as well as sharing all of your memories at the U, as well as through the Great Recession, relating to now, which, as we know, is an uncertain and unsure time. What advice, just in general, would you all have, just starting off very positively and very directly with what you all can impart to those who are watching? What advice do you all have that you can give, that you all got through the Great Recession, and how it can be used through right now, this pandemic?
Go ahead, Paige.
Okay, I want to. Well, the first thing I want to say, thinking positive, that this will end eventually. Like every dip, there's an up. There is going to be, the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to be a great, bright light. Very positive things will happen in the future. One of the best pieces of advice I received. So when I graduated, my senior year, I decided to just not do what I studied, which was finance. And I was like, I don't really want to do this. I don't really know what I'm doing. I failed a lot, which I'm sure I'll share throughout this meeting. But the best advice I received was from my mother. I decided I had a whole list of ideas. I decided to move across the country with no job. I didn't know anyone. My mom said, no, just do it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You can come back home and you'll have more time to figure it out. And so having that support system gave me the confidence to take those risks, which, part of people's success is also a lot of luck as well. To even have a support system is a thing to be very lucky about. So, just find that someone or something that you can find comfort in that can give you the courage to take some risks, because we're gonna have to start taking some risks real soon.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll just echo Paige. Staying motivated is very important. So whatever you have to do to help your professional goals, it might be personal goals, might be the thing that you need to work on as well to keep you kind of balanced and elevated. It will end. We don't know when, but it will end. And what you want to do is be ready. So.
Yeah, and I run with that. The one thing I look at is you got to look around you and have compassion and empathy, because others are probably having a tougher time than we are. And I tell myself all the time, and you're right, it is going to end. It did end. 01 ended, 08 ended. We got back, and things did get back to normal. So just hold on for as hard as you can and ride it, and we're going to get through it.
Thank you all. In speaking towards that, how would you all say that that positivity speaks to finding a job during a difficult time in our country? As we know, it's people have positions that have not come back anymore because of the way things have shifted so drastically throughout this current situation. So what advice would you all give about navigating the job market during a recession?
I suppose I could jump in first on this one. I've been lucky enough to always have a job during these, and I haven't been laid off. Sadly, though, in 01, I had to lay people off, and that hurt. And then I was young, but I told myself I had to do everything I could to try not to, if that happened again, to lay people off again. And in 2008, we didn't have to, so I was proud of that. And there's finding ways of protecting yourself or the people around you. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we move ahead here, because there's some advice I could give on how do you protect yourself. So the thing is you got to find ways to shift your focus and maybe do some things differently. And those are some things that we could talk about here moving forward too.
I'll add to that. You guys probably hear all the time, network. Obviously, that's key. I relied on family and friends seriously during that time, spreading the word that I was what I was looking for. When you do find some things, make sure that you notify people who might be attached to that opportunity. Even if you don't find an opportunity, still connect with people learn where you can from those people, because something might pop up in the future. I would say that your community, your local community, is going to be key for you. I know we all have to social distance right now, but make sure that you're tapping in.
Yeah, and I want to add to what Alicia said is, yeah, definitely network. And I think another piece of advice that worked for me was volume as well. Be flexible and just apply for all the things. Like I know, especially this is really pertinent for recent grads as well. It's like you have an idea of what you want to do, and then your career will go on a trajectory that you could have never imagined or have expected. So with me, you know, I had very little prospects since I graduated. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I just applied. I had very, you know, small amount of goals, daily goals. I did like 10 applications a day, 10 resumes a day to get one interview to then hopefully get a job offer. I took part-time roles. I tried out an internship that didn't really work out, but just trying to find a role where I could learn on the job, learn some new skills that I can just put on my resume to then, you know, hop to the next one. So I think, you know, definitely use your network, reach out to your friends, family, you know, try and figure out some side things, and then just volume, because I think one small benefit to all of this is remote work. Like a lot more people are feeling comfortable interviewing and hiring over Zoom. Like we've hired people on our team completely online, that they've started completely online. So we're still going through that effort to get people into the door when we really need those skills. So I'm sure there's a lot of other companies doing that as well.
You know, and Sola, I know you're going to go next question. Another one is Alicia and Christian, and the fact that professional and career development is at your fingertips and so much easier to access. I didn't even know where the library was when I was in school, let alone that building. You know, go to that building and talk, because it is stressful and you need people to talk to. So take advantage of that.
I'd like to add one more thing. I noticed the age ranges, or graduation ranges, excuse me. Take a key from Gen Z. Gen Z has no problem taking a job, seeing if it works, and leaving that job if it doesn't. If companies are hiring right now, you're probably safe in that position. You won't be cut. So you can feel kind of secure going into it, but don't be afraid to let that go if it's not what you thought it was going to be. So do what you need to do for yourself.
Thank you all really for that really great advice of how to network and the importance of being out there and how to stay out there. I would also, as we trickle down on this session regarding jobs and the recession, how can individuals make themselves more marketable as they network, as they put themselves out, especially digitally? How can they make themselves more marketable and more attractive in the positions that they want? What tools to use, whether they be LinkedIn and other suggestions that you all have, as well as let us know how it differs in different industries, or how it has differed in you all's industries, like what you all look for in a candidate. And as we do that for the attendees, please let us know in the industries that you all are a part of, the tools that you are using, so we can see what you all are using and how better to communicate with you.
I can speak from a career coach perspective. So I tell clients and students all the time about micro credentialing, excuse me. That is something that's gotten more popular over the last several years. So what I mean by micro credentials, you don't necessarily have to go back to school for a full degree, a 4-year bachelor's, a 2-year master's, or what have you. You could take some courses that equal a certificate, or some sort of credential offered by some organization that could take you a couple weeks, a couple months to complete, and then you have something tacked onto your name that you can put in your resume. that shows that you have a little bit more knowledge or expertise in a specific area. And you can do that as much as you want, as many times as you want, as much as cost permits. A lot of these you'll be able to find for free. I love LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn Learning. My team uses it. My staff uses it. We direct students to use it. But that is not your only option. There are some paid options as well. And definitely look to your university and other surrounding universities for online options too.
Thank you. Training is always important.
Paige, I'll be glad to jump in next there. So it is an interesting question because I'm going to relate it to enhancing not only your personal marketability, but I'm going to also relate it to business marketability because they go hand in hand because we're our own personal brands when it comes down to it, right? So you got to find something that you're good at, but you don't realize the power of that asset. You got to step back and start thinking, what are some other things that I do well that I just have never really raised my hand to go do? So for us in a business sense, as a brand agency that tells brand stories, we had to realize big part of it was live events, and live events are dead, as we all know. Weddings, sports, concerts, everything is, even shooting of movies and films are done. They're just not happening right now. So we need to communicate more now than ever. And I realize that our brands that we're doing these shows for, and I'm going to put a link to a Cadillac launch we're doing for their new electric car tomorrow night, they still have to do these things somewhere. So you take them to a virtual world, and we were already doing digital events. We just weren't selling it very well or talking about it. So we had to start talking about it and showing people that we did it well when we didn't even realize we were doing it as well as we were. So you have to just find something, and that'll help you and go, I think I could market this better of myself. And another idea is to find industries as a business and or a person that rebound when others falter during recessions. And that's a very important thing because there are certain things during downturns that do well. Look at the food and beverage right now. Look at beer, wine, and alcohol brands. Man, they're through the roof. An overlooked industry is direct selling. Tupperware, Amway's, Mary Kay's, Herbalife's. I'm not telling you to go sell lipstick. It's an option if you're at home. But what I'm saying is supplying things to an industry like that, actually those areas, because they are the only ones during the last recession, they grew 11%. So find things like that that are hiring. So those are some things that I think might be helpful.
And I want to add to what Alicia said as well in terms of like micro credentials. There's so many more resources now than since when I graduated that people are doing to further their education outside of traditional colleges. You know, there's boot camps, code camps. I have a lot of friends personally that have transitioned their complete entire career because of code camps and boot camps. But even beyond that is like learning. Once again, I think the key here is flexibility, right? Like there are going to be a lot more industries that are much harder hit and much harder to rebound from. But a lot of the skills I have now, I did not learn them in college. I learned them afterwards. And there are just so many resource groups for specific areas that if you may be interested in, like for me, digital marketing, there's so many different, you know, online groups you can join. There's probably everything's being digital as well. Like meetup.com. When I first left college, I flew out to San Francisco. First thing I did was I found the alumni group because I want to have people to watch football with. So I met a lot of folks there. I went to some meetups for new people. And a lot of my current roles I met through friends who referred me. So finding like a small group of online people that you can discuss with, like learn from, building a portfolio, building your own website, things like that, practicing all these different skills that you can then add to your resume and learn even more once you get a role to use those skills at.
Thank you all very much. And I think what you all provided will be a good segue into risk-taking. I think you all have touched on a little bit of it, whether you're talking about micro-credentialing and going out of your comfort zone to learn something new, or whether you're working in branding and going out to do something, you know, brand new. How have you all taken risks in your career and your personal lives, and how has that added to your development in your career and in general?
Yeah, I can add to what I was saying before. So the biggest risk that I did was after graduation, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I tried going to grad school, failed a lot, lots of failure. I tried going to Japan to teach English because I really wanted to do that. Got rejected, did not get into that. So, at the bottom of my list, I was like, well, let me go to San Francisco. I hear, they're growing. Today, I would not go to San Francisco. It's really expensive. Now you can go to Atlanta. You can go to Michigan, there's so Austin, so many much more affordable places, Miami that are growing rapidly. But yeah, I moved out here, no job. I had a couple months in savings. And I was like, let me just come out here. Let me just see what's about. And yeah, I just figured it out from there. Once again, I know it's a completely different landscape because we all are stuck in the house, but we can travel digitally. There's a lot of more options online, especially how everyone's bringing their events online as well. So yeah, just putting yourself out there and being ready to fail, because you are going to fail, but just being ready for it.
That's a word, Paige. Failure is not something that we like to talk about. Happened to me too. I graduated 2009, went to law school right after, did not do well, was not working for my life at that point. Had to just make a decision to leave. And that was 2010. So still not out of that recession yet, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? Yes, I have my bachelor's degree, but I'm not getting any hits on these job boards. So what happens now? So the risk I took was deciding to go back to grad school, but trying a different program. So I went with the MBA. I did much better there. I guess with my business background, it just made more sense for me. So that was definitely a risk going in because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was done. But I just knew that nothing was happening out here at the time. So that was a calculated risk, expensive too, but it was one that I had to take.
Talking about risks, Paige, you could relate. You're at Netflix. Maybe there's the risk of not taking any risks. Let's compare this to what Blockbuster did, and you guys ate their lunch, right? They fell apart completely after 2008, and I think they went bankrupt completely in 2010. Talk about going back. My former team used to produce their big event, which was 7,000 people in the late 90s. They were on fire. They didn't take any risks. They didn't do what Netflix did. They thought what Netflix was doing was a joke. And they talked about it on stage. They didn't feel like they needed to take a risk. Everything was great. So we took a risk in our business during this pandemic and during this downfall in our space because the live events arm of our business was a big part of it was stagnant at the time. As I talked about, we decided to launch our overarching Invent Group, which is the parent company now to Meaning, which is a culture agency that we launched during this time. We launched a brand design arm during this time, and to go along with our content design and live events arm. So we decided, let's not slow down, let's speed up, because our competitors are hurting, sadly, and we don't want that to be the case, but we felt we got to take a risk and go the opposite direction right now. And so far it's worked really well, and we've landed a lot of new clients by taking that type of a risk. So you have to take the risk or you're going to fail.
Thank you. I think Scott obviously speaks to something so dear about being on the fence of that risk, because it's like obviously on the other side of that risk is magic. So I think there is a risk to not taking a risk. And if there's anybody in industries, in specific industries, if you want to talk about risks that you find yourself taking right now, that you're being forced to take maybe due to the pandemic, risks of going out on your own, if you want to discuss that, please be sure to use our Q&A feature. And in the midst of that, I also would like to ask a question to our panelists to help our attendees, hopefully, with the idea of taking risks, is aside from applying for jobs, because obviously we see that as a risk because it's not something that's sure, we never, it could be yes or no, but there are some jobs that are riskier than others. And even in the sense of applying to jobs may not be a risk at all if you can make a job, you know, and that's the real risk. So for our panelists, a question for our attendees: what are other ways that our attendees can be making their day valuable and taking risks outside of just applying for jobs?
I could start that one, because stay active, you know, and I'm not following my own advice. Trying to save something. I've been working 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day, and I didn't sign up for that. Just trying to keep things afloat and move ahead. I care so much about our staff and everything that I wanted to do everything that the people we had to lay off, we've brought back, but man, we had to work hard to do that. You know, at the end of the day, a big glass of wine has been far easier to do than working out, you know? So work out, get out, stay active. Don't search all day for that job if you don't have one. Go live your life still. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. I want to, like, similar to what Alicia said before too, is like, what are you good at that you don't even know you're good at? Like, what is there anything you're passionate about? Like, maybe invest some time into being happy, into being passionate. Like, if there's any creative outlet, I'm not a very, creative person, a very analytical person. So for me, it was like learning how to build my own website, learning how, hosting works and things like that. Like, those are skills that was fun for me to learn, but also transferable in the workplace, which is really, I think prioritizing your mental health, finding what you love and enjoy, definitely is more important right now than job hunting, 10 hours a day.
I love everything you guys said. I'm all about self-care and holistic healing. I have aromatherapy all throughout the house, so I'm so there with you. I would also add that that networking thing, keep doing it. Keep your network warm. So what I mean by that is the people that you already are connected to, make sure you check in with them. Hey, how you doing? How's business going? Just drop them a line, let them know, hey, still looking. If anything pops up, let me know. Give me a word. Here's my updated resume. Or, hey, I just finished this micro credential or this badge or what have you. Just wanted to let you know, and I'm still looking. Keep your network warm.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for those answers. Let's think about transitioning into the workplace. A lot of people are unemployed, but let's say that they found something and, they're gunning for it. But in this time, it is very tenuous, very uncertain. How can we empower individuals to negotiate a good, fair, just, valuable salary for themselves?
I'm happy to take it. So if you're in the interview process and they're interviewing you, that means they're ready to hire. They have a budget for that role. Just don't be afraid. They're not going to, if you ask for too much money, they're not going to just say no. And if they do just cut you off and don't continue the interview process, you don't want to work for them anyway. So definitely don't hold back knowing your worth. I think it definitely is, the benefit right now is for the employers. It's definitely harder for the employee to, negotiate for raises, negotiate for bonuses, things like that. That's probably not happening across the board. It's not happening for us either. But if you were in that interview process and if it's going through that process, then, you still, advocate for yourself or advocate for your family that you need to take care of. If that's even easier for you to be more forceful during those negotiation process.
That's really good, Paige. I would also add to that, what you said about them having a designated budget is completely true. You can ask them in your interview, what is your salary range that you've set aside for this position? Because I promise you there is one. So you just want to kind of judge yourself against the job posting requirements and qualifications. If you have most of the preferred qualifications, you can ask for the higher end of the pay range. If you have the experience, you have the credentials, you have the degree, you can ask up here. If you're still trying to break in a little bit, not as much experience, then you know that you are sliding towards the middle of the scale, but ask about that pay range.
And don't be scared to negotiate a little bit. People are going to appreciate that. Just don't overstep too far. Walk in confident but not cocky is what I always say. Walk in proud, like you deserve the job, with a smile on your face. Lay down those facts of what you've done. Even if your career is just starting, you've done things to be proud of. Highlight those strengths and those accomplishments. Um, but do it with a smile and be personable, because people really end up hiring people they want to work with and be friends with. Let's be honest. I always tell people, I'll take an average skilled person with a great attitude over above average talent with a bad attitude every single day of the week, period. I just cannot stand negative people in the workplace. It kills it, right? So do the same thing when you're pushing for a raise too. You know, it's the same. When you negotiate a raise or a salary, it's all the same. But don't ever compare yourself to others, because that backfires, you know? So it's all about you, and it's all about how you could help the person you're in there with get to where they want to go. They're hiring you because they want to raise. My thought.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are very helpful. I think that lends itself to this idea of indispensability, and how do you make yourself singularly indispensable for the company or for your department. In relating to that, a question from one of our attendees regarding micro-credentials, because I think that's a way to make yourself indispensable, whether you're with the company or whether you're looking for a place to go. So regarding micro-credentials, what's the best way to prove to an employer that the online courses you took truly elevate your experience? Is one online resource better than the other? And is adding those certifications on your LinkedIn compelling enough? So if anyone has any experience either developing credentials or in hiring, please tell us what advice you have or what answers you may have.
I don't necessarily know if one micro credential might be better than another offering, but how you can showcase that it has added value is if you've actually used the skills. So if you have used the skills in your current position or on a project or something you built, something that it can be showcased, you can say, hey, this is what I learned in this credential or this badge, this is how I used it, and then this is how this can be helpful or add value to this position or this company. So if you can showcase it, that is the most important way of saying, hey, this actually did work.
Yeah, and it's also going to be very, very specific by industry and by what you're studying. So it's hard for us to give, like, you know, a blanket statement, but specific to digital marketing, for example, and what I do SEO, back in the day, there were like courses you could take. There was certification you can get, like Google Analytics certification, for example. And some of these businesses would like say, oh, you need to have this experience in Google Analytics. Well, I have a certification in this. I've done this. And then I've implemented it on my own site. I did it on my own. So similar to what she said, you have to do these credentials and then be able to apply it somehow. And it's going to vary by industry. But I think that's the what I would look for on someone's resume. Like, I've gone through these courses, I've done these courses, and this is how I've applied it, even if it's a personal project or a previous company.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I'm on the tail end looking at retirement. When I get a resume, and I'll talk about resume later if we bring that up, I joke. I mean, yeah, that all sounds good. I need to look into it and get myself some badges, because what I look at, honestly, is a story being told in a resume, and someone that has the personality to fit the role. We're in a creative agency. You kind of got to, I changed it. I haven't cut my hair since January, and that's only because we've been locked down, but it kind of looks creative. And then my Wade County and this and that. We just look for a look and a feel and a person that walks and talks the right way. So when that resume comes in, I chuck too many resumes. I probably should look a little closer at them. I do have some tips on resumes if we end up talking about that. So on one hand, yes, they're important. And I'm sure I'd love to talk to you guys about them a little bit more, because the workplace is getting obviously younger and younger, or I'm getting older and older, one of the two. And I need to start looking for things like that.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to depend on the industry. Some industries, it might not help you out. You know, there's some other industries where if you're an architect, you're going to need that formal training versus a certification. So it definitely is going to vary by industry. And I just want to say, like, I first got my start out in an agency. Agencies are great because you learn a lot really, really fast. So that's always an opportunity to look out for specific agencies where they have a lot of entry-level roles. They're looking for, you know, go-getters, great personality, and then you can really learn a lot on the job there.
Thank you all. I guess we'll, you know, transition into something more specific and more concrete relating to resumes. Let's talk. As you all give advice on people submitting resumes and those reading resumes, what to add, what to look for, what to keep out forever. Any tips you all
have? So resumes are very personal. Everyone's resume can be formatted differently. But one thing to keep in mind is that you probably have about less than 10 seconds, according to Scott, right, to catch someone's attention who's reading your resume. Or if you're meeting the demon of an ATS, an applicant tracking system, you probably have to hit certain keywords. So you definitely want to pay attention to the job posting and make sure that you are actually highlighting in your resume the key qualifications and experiences that they're looking for. And your best bet is to keep them on that first page of your resume, because that's probably what will be scanned and tossed.
Or just only have one page on your resume. Because I'm going to tell you, if someone's been in the workforce for a long time and they have 2 and 3 pages, no way. I'm not going to read it at all. Get that, my personal opinion, get it down to 1 page, because the person reading it doesn't have time to read 3 pages. You know, rejection starts at the resume well before you'll ever speak to anyone. So you definitely have to tell the story. I do get hundreds and hundreds of resumes because we're a fairly well-known agency when it comes to PR efforts and things like that. Not that we do PR, but we're out there and people see it, and I'm getting a lot of them. I'm on the sales side and I have a global sales team around the world. And the lack of a story or a glimpse into who you really are, that hurts. You got to have that story somehow told. Now, you're right. More technical jobs, you got to have the right pieces and parts that are going to fit the role. In the creative world and some of the things that we do here, I quickly will chuck a Word template looking resume. I'm going to say something total opposite of what Alicia said, I think it was. So I'm going to have a tough time with the younger people coming in, because I will completely chuck a resume with someone who has 5 or 6 jobs over 2 years. That tells me you have no dedication. You picked the wrong jobs. You didn't do a good job of trying to make something work. And why should I hire you? So I'm going to go on the opposite end of that just for a second, only for that reason, because I always move those ones aside. But I'm hiring salespeople. Because if, in my eyes, if a salesperson doesn't last at least a year and a half or 2 years, they didn't sell anything. So that's why I will let them go. So let me clarify that reason. So those are just some of the things I look at, because you want to get to that stage of talking to someone on a phone, and your resume is the blocker in front of that. So.
Yeah, I'm going to add to a few things you said there. So first, like, I work on the more technical side, so I work with engineers most of the time every day. And so certain roles, you know, they're going to come in, you're going to have to like actually do a test. But even with our roles, it's still about the storytelling. Like, I used to back in the day list a whole bunch of bullets of what my responsibilities were. I don't do that anymore. It's telling the story, like, what did I do with this role? What were the results? You know, what did I own? What did I push forward? Things like that. What were my wins? And it really is about the storytelling. But there is a generational gap, because I agree with you, there shouldn't be too much job hunting, like at least a year. But that's how I really succeeded in my career. And that's how a lot of young people really succeed in their career, was job hopping. You don't get yearly big raises. What you do get is big salary bumps if you're able to take the skills you learned at an agency, all those great skills you learned, really be able to tell that story, sell your accomplishments, and then negotiate really hard for a really great salary. So job hopping can be good to boost, you know, your class, to boost how much money you have coming in. But to Scott's point, you do want to be able to have those wins, have those stories, that, you know, it's going to take a good year to really build a rapport at a company and build that up, build that case up. So yeah.
Let me clarify, because you're correct. And if I was to tell you that I didn't do that earlier on in my career, there's a couple short gigs that I have that just aren't on the resume anymore. But that's just because I lost them. I forgot what job it was. All kidding aside, if your resume tells a good story of why you jumped and went to the next one, and you're building and you're growing, and I'm telling my personal story and here's why I did what I did, then they'll go, okay, I appreciate the story you just told and why you're here. If it's just, I just didn't like the job, then that's bad. If it's because I was building to get to where I am now, that's the way you want to be able to tell it.
I think you both are correct. And I would say that no one will ever forget 2020. So when HR professionals are reading applications and resumes, the time frame of 2, 3, 5 years around the 2020 era will be remembered. So if you do some job hopping now, I don't think you'll be penalized too much for it.
I completely agree. And that just like everyone said, I think it's about the story that you're able to craft about yourself and your job and your history. So as we wrap up, I wanted to ask a question for all of you about rejection and how you all how you all have dealt with rejection along your career journey, in addition to what tips you all may have for those dealing with rejection, especially during, as you all know, this uncertain time. You know, what can you all impart to our viewers?
Yeah, I would just restate all the rejection that I've had. It's going to happen, and just I think the very first thing you can do is just expect it, and maybe even put a list like, I'm not a success until I get rejected at least 5 times this week, you know, something like that. So I got rejected from all the grad schools I wanted to go to. I wanted to go to USC, to Stanford, rejected. I really wanted to go into the JET program, which is the Japanese English teaching program. It's very highly regarded. I had, you know, my recommendations, got rejected. They didn't want to see me. Did a lot of job hunting out here in San Francisco during my job hopping moments. Got rejected a lot of companies, but every time I got rejected from one company, the next offer I got was always better. It was always a better experience because I had all of that experience of like practicing my resume, practicing my interviewing process, practicing negotiation. It's skill that you have to practice and keep, you know, ready to go. Practicing, you know, presentations and things like that. And so just the first step is just expecting it and, you know, checking it off. Like I am a success because of all this rejection.
Yeah, I will add to what Paige said. It is to be expected. I would say if you're having, so mental health important, holistic healing important, all about that. So if you're having signs of anxiety and depression around your job search and getting the rejections, please seek therapy, get some help for that. And while you do that, on the other side of it, see your career center, because a lot of times all you need to hear is, hey, you did nothing wrong. You were a good fit. It just didn't happen. And you can get some extra help on gearing your application materials towards your next position that you're applying for. So get the help that you need on both ends.
And when you do get it rejected, take it the right way with a positive attitude and reach out to that person that rejected you. Send them a nice note. Tell them you appreciate the time you spent. Tell them if they ever heard of anything or if they see something else, maybe recommend you. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't happen often at all. When someone's told they didn't get a job, they're gone. I'm going to tell you how many times though people responded in a really nice way or followed up and said, hey, I'm still going to keep in touch with you. Something positive ended up happening. More than likely, they were recommended to someone else just because they weren't the right fit. It's not for anything other than, you know, it's never often a really negative reason. And if you leave a good impression, there's a good chance it's going to go to the growing and networking. You're still networking even though you didn't get the job. you know, they might turn you on to someone on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the greatest. There's a lot happening on LinkedIn, and there's go there, and when you're rejected, find more people to talk to. In fact, turn it into a positive and motivation tool versus getting you down, because when you get down, then that person that rejected you won, and you also don't want that to happen.
That's a really good tip. I've had recruiters reject me. I've gone through the interview process. They say, you know, we're not going to move forward. I'm like, great, please, you know, keep my information. Or if you think there's a great fit in the future, feel free to get back to me. And they've gone back to me with more opportunities. So it does happen. Definitely be nice to everyone, even if some cases they don't deserve it. Definitely be nice to everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even for me as an actor, where rejection is the only thing that is promised. Early on, I definitely built my relationships with casting directors through not getting the role 9 times out of 10. Everything I didn't get, I responded to them about, you know, everything else that we talked about in the room. And 9 times out of 10, I got another call for something else. And it always leads to something, because at the end of the day, what we all are talking about when it comes to working and playing and living is relationships. And so that is just always what it's about, keeping that line of communication open. We're going to end with one last question from one of our attendees. And this goes to everything that we've all been talking about, whether it is having a secure personal life or something that you're committed to, and then going out, you know, and expressing yourself in your career. But the question is, do you recommend exploring your interests within a job, or is it better to figure out exactly what you want to do before applying and then targeting your applications?
I love this question. I am always promoting intrapreneurship. And hopefully you've heard that term before. So that is basically you getting into a position at an organization. Yes, you are assigned your specific tasks, but you find a way to find things that you're passionate about within your role. And sometimes even outside of your role, if you're lending a helping hand, you to do your job and love your job while you're doing your job, finding things that you're passionate about within the organization, within your role, maybe starting affinity groups or running affinity groups in your organization. Those things are going to make you find those extra skills that you probably haven't used or didn't know you had or didn't come in with. And you'll feel a little bit more secure in your role, knowing that you're doing something that you're happy with.
So, Paige, go for it.
No, please.
I jumped right on you there. So I had a couple stories that came to mind on that one, but I couldn't agree more. You are 100% correct. There's a couple things that I tell a lot of people that get down on themselves and they get into a role at a company and they see something else that they want to do and they just don't speak up, or they don't find a champion. And your champion does not have to be your boss. In fact, I'm going to tell you, more often than not, is not your boss unless you have a very good relationship with them. Find another person that you can count on that could be a voice for you. Go get what you want. No one's going to give you anything, people. You got to go get it yourself. I promise you this. No one's going to give you that raise or that new job as fast as you want to get it. Now, you might earn it. It might take a long time, like we talked about. Go get it. Go ask for it. One of my admins in the biz dev team took the job, and he told me later, because he was a great writer and he knew he wasn't going to get the job as a writer. He came in and killed it in our division, started writing stories in the sales and the biz dev side of it. And our chief creative said, he's coming over here. And I said, take him. He's awesome. That's what you just get the job. If you like the company or their industry, take whatever job it is. And I'll give you one other quick story. I had a sales rep, and because we had to lay off a few, she was the first one out because she was the last one hired. She was working for a couple months, or excuse me, she was at home for a couple months, March, April, May. She finally called me. She said, Scott, I have 5 kids. I'm going crazy. I'm sitting at home. I love what you guys are doing. I can't get another job right now. I'm going to just go close the deals I was working on, and you're going to hire me back, or at least pay me a commission for these things. I said, how could I say no to that? These times are crazy. If you could do that, let's go do it. I will support you, but we can't, what do we do? There's a fine line. We couldn't pay her. She's like, I'm just going to go do it. A month later, she landed Walmart. So the largest brand in the world, a month later, she went and landed. Of course, she's back on full-time staff. Of course, that changed a lot of things. Because of that action of her doing that, we hired a few people back faster than we thought we were gonna. So go get what you want. She went and got her job back, and so things like that, you just got to be aggressive and you got to go get it.
Yeah, +1 to both of you. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your answers and for your thoughtfulness and your insight. I'm going to hand it back over to Christian with Topple so he can close out.
Sorry, I made the unmute mistake. What a wonderful panel. I've been sitting here and just so, impressed with all the things that you all were saying. And, I love the little, back and forth, the little mini fight that we had. It's great to get different perspectives. So thank you all very much. I want to give a shout out to Alicia, who was one of our student assistants at Topple when she was an undergrad. So it's great to see you doing amazing things. So thank you to our moderator, our panelists for an insightful session. And this really concludes our summer Skill Up series. We have a variety of virtual and online resources available for University of Miami alumni, which you'll see on the screen. For all of you, if you don't know, you can register on Handshake, which is our platform that connects you to employers and jobs. You can also access the Alumni Career Corner at alumnicareer.miami.edu. On this portal, you will find resources, blogs, featured jobs, our mentoring platform, which is called Cane to Cane, and by the way, is amazing, and so much more. I'd like to point out that our mentoring platform can be used for you to mentor a current student, or for alumni to alumni mentoring as well. 2 additional options include U Online, which offers graduate degrees, and MOOCs, which are free, massive, open online courses, and all the links are in the chat. I want to point out that our previous webinars are also available to view at the Alumni Career Corner. So if you've missed any of them, you haven't missed out. You'll be able to watch them, and this one will be available as well. So at this time, I'd like to invite our moderator and our panelists to return to throw up the U with me. Thank you all.